This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with a developing story. Police are searching for 3 missing kids believed to have been abducted by their mother for a second time just hours after they were initially found. CBC's Bartley Kivas joins us live in the newsroom about the renewed search for the children. And Bart, what are the Mounties saying?
Well, this goes back to December in the Durham region. That's a big municipality east of Toronto. 3 boys were reported missing. 6 months later, they were found here in Manitoba. Early Sunday morning, RCMP in Boissevain say they were told the boys were found at the Boissevain port of entry at the Canada-US border. That's on Highway 10 near the International Peace Gardens. The RCMP found the kids unharmed with their mother, 55-year-old Astrid Schiller. The kids were taken into care at a home in Forest, Manitoba, north of Brandon. Schiller was arrested on an outstanding warrant for child abduction, but she was released because the warrant wasn't extended into Manitoba. Early Monday morning, Blue Hills RCMP in the Brandon area were told the 3 children were no longer in care in Forest. The RCMP is looking for 3 boys, Leon, age 12, Christopher, 11, and Thomas, age 9. RCMP believe that the boys are with their mother, Astrid Schiller. She's believed to be driving a white 2018 Mercedes GLC with BC license plate SJ975W. Now, if you have any information about the whereabouts of these boys, RCMP asks you contact your local police or call 911 or call the Blue Hills RCMP or contact Crime Stoppers. Brittany.
All right, that's CBC's Bartley Kivas for us tonight. Thanks, Bart. A provincially run Winnipeg-based facility that creates crucial materials used to detect cancer has once again failed its Health Canada inspection. This is the 5th time in the past decade. It's raising concerns the facility could have its license pulled, leading to a temporary shutdown. The IT's Caroline Bargut explains.
The Winnipeg Cyclotron facility is the only manufacturer of medical isotopes in Manitoba. That matters because isotopes are used to detect possible tumors during a test known as a PET scan.
Shared Health runs the facility located at Health Sciences Centre. Earlier this year, CBC News reported the facility failed its Health Canada inspection in the fall. And a new report released last week shows it failed again. The regulator found 5 deficiencies during its latest inspection in April. It included problems with the sterilization of products, investigations into defective products, plus not enough training. The facility also failed inspections in 2020, 2017, and 2013. And in 2018, Health Canada threatened to suspend the facility's license after the regulator felt it hadn't done enough to address its findings. Shared Health says the latest failure has not impacted any PET scans and poses no risks to patients. They said progress has been made since its last inspection in the fall, including restructuring, hiring a new lead radiochemist, and creating new in-house sterilization methods. They said progress has been made since its last inspection in the fall, including restructuring, hiring a new lead radiochemist, and creating new in-house sterilization methods. But it wasn't enough to satisfy Health Canada.
The health regulator says it's reviewing the facility's response to its latest inspection and will re-inspect it in the coming months. If it fails again, Health Canada could temporarily pull its license. Caroline Bargut, CBC News, Winnipeg.
2 teenage boys have been charged after police say they confronted a group of people with an air pistol and a machete at one of Winnipeg's biggest summer fairs yesterday. Police were called to the Red River X around 8:30 p.m. They say a group of boys aged 15 to 18 were standing in line to get on a ride when 2 others came up to them. An argument ensued and the group took out the weapons. The group of teens alerted security afterwards. Now, to get inside, people must go through metal detectors, pat-downs, bag checks, and there are plainclothes officers on site as well as more than a kilometer of fencing to ensure people go through the main entrance. But police say this didn't stop them.
It's believed that these weapons were previously tossed over an outer fence around the perimeter of the grounds and later retrieved. As a result of these actions, the Red River X has bolstered their perimeter security to ensure the safety of all of their guests.
A 17-year-old and 15-year-old are both facing charges. The Red River X says guards will continue to patrol the fencing to deter people from throwing weapons into the fairground. A 49-year-old Winnipeg man is charged with sexual assault after two teens were attacked in an apartment in the St. John's neighborhood. It happened Thursday afternoon. Police say the victims were forced into a bedroom and assaulted by a man armed with a syringe. They were able to call for help when he passed out. Police say they were called for an attempted break-in nearby 10 minutes earlier, where a woman reported a man leering at her and her young children.
Had a sense of unease and brought her children into the house. This individual seemed very focused and driven to still get into the home, thankfully was not able to. And in the second incident, certainly a very tragic outcome, and it'll take some time for healing.
As thousands of students get ready to walk across the stage at graduation, this moment is extra special for one Winnipeg girl who never thought she would make it. The last few years have been a struggle for Elle Harris. Her mom, Morgan, was one of 4 women killed by admitted serial killer Jeremy Skibitsky. Now the 20-year-old says this is for her mom. CBC's Zubina Ahmed brings you her story.
For Elle Harris, these brightly colored ribbon skirts aren't just a piece of clothing. They represent survival, her Indigenous identity, and resilience.
I was ashamed of myself, and I was ashamed to be in my culture because that's what I was taught growing up.
She's the daughter of Morgan Harris, whose remains will be searched for in the Prairie Green landfill. The 20-year-old is about to graduate from Argyle Alternative High School.
I didn't think I was going to graduate because I had court going on and so much stuff with my mom, and then plus on top of that I had school. I'm going to measure it and we'll
She
see
says being at Argyle helped her through this difficult period of her life. Here she learned about her Indigenous culture.
I wanted to be straight.
And as she's about to leave, she's giving back, teaching other students how to make ribbon skirts.
That's all I want to do. I want to take everything that I've learned in all my experiences and help other people out and help them get out of that dark hole I was in. 41. Okay.
While the trial for her mother's killer was going on, Harris says she made it through with the support of her teachers, family, and friends. A shelter her mother used is right across from her school.
That's not the only place, like everywhere it's hard. Going down Main Street, it's hard. Going past the Low Mission, like I do Bear Clan walks, so even just doing that, it's really hard because it's closure I'll never be able to get. I still think I'm gonna see her around the corner.
Harris says as a student in Argyle, she also took the leadership role of educating staff and students about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
We're still here, and that's why it's so important for us. It's really important for me to get it out there because we're not dead. We're not runaways. We're not any of what people put out there. We're human beings just like everyone else that want to have the right to grieve properly.
Right there.
Oh, yeah.
Her teacher, Rosetta Troya, calls her one of the most strongest, resilient, and kindest students.
Seeing Elle not only persevere in her personal life, but then have the ability to do well in her academic life, there's no better feeling because it's often hard to do both when you have a lot going on. And so seeing that is probably the most rewarding.
Her graduation ceremony is on June 26th, and she will be wearing a ribbon skirt, a beaded cap, and a red stole with her mom's picture on it.
Everything I'm going to be doing for that day is going to be for my mom and for myself as well, because my mom didn't get to graduate, my father didn't get to graduate. A lot of my family members never got to graduate, so I'm doing this for them. I'm going to wear that cap for them.
And after she walks across the stage to get her diploma, she will be walking the streets of Winnipeg with Morgan's Warriors, a patrol group to help women like her mom. Zabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
This past weekend, dozens gathered to remember Elle's mom, Morgan Harris, and celebrate what would have been her 42nd birthday. A powwow was held Saturday afternoon for Harris at Camp Morgan, near the entrance to the city's Brady landfill. One couple who previously walked across the country to raise awareness about missing and murdered Indigenous people came all the way from Prince George, BC to attend the ceremony. They say the victims' families and their community's effort to find closure sets a precedent to be followed elsewhere in the country.
Because what's going on in BC, we're having the same problems over there, and we just like to come out here and show the support.
Yeah, they've been lighting the fire across the country. The world is watching what's going on here in Winnipeg and what the families have been doing, and the leadership all coming together, and the unity that is showing and is creating across the country it's undeniable.
The gathering comes just days after plans to search the landfill were unveiled by the Premier. Last week, the province approved the environmental license needed to move forward with it. A pilot search meant to give workers a better understanding of the materials in the landfill will begin this month, followed by a targeted search for the remains, which is expected to take 5 months. The City of Winnipeg administration has gone through a major shakeup. Chief Administrative Officer Michael Jack abruptly resigned as head of the civil service this morning. As CBC's Cameron McLean reports, it comes less than a week after a scathing report on the city's workforce.
This was Michael Jack's response last week after briefing councillors on a report that found major gaps in the city's processes for evaluating staff performance.
Are you concerned about your own job?
I'm solely focused on doing my job as well as I can for every day that I'm in this role. So that's what I'm going to continue to focus on.
But today, after nearly a quarter century with the city, Jack quit. He worked in a number of roles with the city and was appointed as Chief Administrative Officer in 2021. Last week, a report found 2/3 of city staff hadn't done a documented performance review, among other issues. Deputy Mayor Janice Lukes didn't mince words at the time.
It's just earth-shattering.
On Monday, Lukes said she didn't call for Jack's resignation, but tied his departure to that report.
I think that recent audit report that we received speaks to some major issues in the city of Winnipeg that need change.
Mayor Scott Gillingham says Jack submitted his resignation Monday morning after days of discussion. As for the reason behind Jack's sudden departure,
I'm going to just keep the conversation between Mr. Jack and myself to ourselves as really an HR matter.
Councillor Ross Eady was also in the meeting on the report last week, which he described as tense.
I think that Mr. Jack probably seen some writing on the wall, and he offered up his resignation.
Michael Jack's official last day is June 28th, but the city has already appointed Deputy CAO Moira Gear as acting CAO until the 28th. Tomorrow at the Executive Policy Committee, Mayor Scott Gillingham will bring forward a motion to appoint Sherwood Armbruster, senior election official, as interim CAO until a permanent replacement can be found. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg Transit Plus is launching a new improved trip booking system with self-service options. In addition to its automated phone service, it will launch a smartphone app and website next month, which will allow people to book rides 24 hours a day. The city says it will reduce barriers and wait times. The Canadian National Institute for the Blind was part of the consultations for the new system and says it will bring more freedom for many users.
So that power can be placed in the hands of the customers to enable them to access service and attain autonomy to plan and negotiate their trips in the way that works best for them.
Winnipeg Transit says the changes will improve route planning and encourage more vehicle ride sharing. The new app will be available to the public starting July 9th. A proud day for Winnipeg's Nigerian community. Emeka Natty Park was unveiled on Bridgeland Drive North over the weekend. The application for the naming came from the community, and Natty is the architect behind the neighbourhoods of Bridgewater. He says it's nice to have his hard work acknowledged.
For that work to be acknowledged through the lenses of equity, inclusion, and diversity, and for the city and the province to come together by virtue of the community and say, this is unique in this way, and this means a lot to us. This is a very significant moment.
Area Councillor Janice Luke says she believes it's the first park in the city to be named after a member of the African community. The Winnipeg Sea Bears have dumped their top scorer. Teddy Allen was released this morning despite being the Canadian Elite Basketball League's reigning MVP. Coach and general manager Mike Taylor says it was a difficult decision, but Allen was at odds with the rest of the team.
Personally, I have spent so much time trying to help Teddy. Our organization has done everything we possibly can to try to help him. Teammates, the whole organization has done everything on multiple levels to try to get him back within the team, within the structure, within the system.
Taylor says Allen created internal unrest for the Sea Bears. Allen had been fined by the league and by the team. Yesterday, the Sea Bears lost their fourth game in a row, even though Allen scored 39 points. CBC has reached out to Allen and has not yet received a response. It was a packed route at yesterday's Manitoba Marathon. Slightly more than 10,000 runners took part in the marathon and other events. Winnipegger Dawn Neal finished as the top women's runner in the full marathon event for a second year in a row. Andrew Taylor, who lives in Lafayette, Indiana, was the first to finish Sunday's full marathon and says his first time in Winnipeg was great.
Came here and just the hospitality's been amazing, and to go out there, just have people cheering the whole way.
Can't even believe it. We're moving out of province in the next 2 weeks, so this could be my last Manitoba Marathon, and I'm just so grateful.
The marathon's executive director says half of the registered runners this year were first-timers in the full and half marathons, marathon relay, and the 5 and 10K runs. Among the runners was 24-year-old Caden Cleland. He dedicated his first ever marathon to his late father and uncle, who both died of drug overdoses. He also raised more than $6,000 for a local mobile overdose prevention site while preparing for the race.
Yeah, I had my family in the mind the last 5 miles, and it was awesome.
How did it feel when you crossed that finish line?
It's so good. It's been an emotional week, and it was perfect day, so I couldn't ask better.
Weather specialist Riley Lachuk joins me, and my goodness, well done to all the runners, the walkers. I did some walking this weekend, but I think nothing quite like that. Yeah. It was a pretty nice weekend, though, but lots of wind this weekend.
Lots of wind, Brittany, especially west, which is where I'm going to start, because we did see some very significant wind, especially through that southwestern corner of the province. Here's some video from Deloraine, and you have to kind of look close. Yes, the video is a bit dark, but you can see all that lightning and that rain behind it really packing a punch through parts of western Manitoba throughout the overnight hours. Saturday into Sunday, with that wind continuing into Sunday. And here's sort of the aftermath of that storm that rolled through here. Down trees, down power lines, meaning thousands of Manitobans without power as we got through the day on Sunday, and even into this morning, a few lingering power outages. John sending these images in from Deloraine of down trees in his neck of the woods, and Muriel taking this photo of a nature trail in the Nipawin area. You can't really see the trail. It's kind of right here, though. You can't quite see it behind all of those down trees. So thanks, folks, for sending those pictures in. Here's a look at some of the numbers when it comes to wind. And you can generally see where we had some of the strongest gusts, especially into this blue and the lighter colors into that sort of light blue red up through the Dauphin area. So the strongest that was recorded was in Dand, Manitoba, which is a locale sort of between Hartney and Deloraine at 123 kilometers an hour yesterday. Gusts to about 100 through the Brandon, Wawanesa, Souris region. Deloraine 101 yesterday. Dauphin, Fork River right around that 90, 100 mark as well. And further west you go, not as windy, but certainly we did see some pretty gusty conditions as well, up to about 60 to 70 through the Interlake and the Red River Valley. Nothing quite like that in the forecast, but we do have another windy day ahead as we head into your Tuesday. Satellite radar showing us sort of the leading edge of our next weather maker, which is already starting to move into western Manitoba. We've seen some of this rain falling throughout the day today, especially through Brandon, down through Souris and the Melita region throughout the day today. That will lead to clouds building in as we get into the overnight period tonight. So by the time we reach even about 2 o'clock in the morning, Winnipeg well into sort of that first sort of push of instability through the overnight hours. Still some rain back to the west. By the time we start the day on Tuesday, though, we're pretty much in the all clear here in Winnipeg for the most part. Some scattered showers, some light winds still coming, but another surge of instability pushes through the Westman region. And that leaves us with a mainly cloudy sky throughout the day for your Tuesday and a chance of some scattered showers. The greatest chance the further west you head in Manitoba. Things do clear out those we head into Wednesday, starting mainly sunny, and that sets us up for a much drier pattern for the most part as we head into the start of summer, which is Thursday afternoon. Rainfall projections, this takes us out 48 hours. A general, I'm saying 10 to 15 millimeters through the Red River Valley, and some higher accumulations, potentially up to 30 for the Red River Valley, or for the Westman region, I should say, and into sort of the Duck Riding Mountain region. What we will feel tomorrow, though, will be the winds for sure. 20 gusting 40, could see some gusts up to 60 through the afternoon, especially the further south you are in the Red River Valley. Down to 12 overnight tonight, 10 to 15 millimeters of rain with some showers in the morning, and really not going anywhere temperature-wise tomorrow. Scattered showers, 16 is your high, and Brittany, the first day of summer on Thursday, a 26-degree high, and that sets us up nicely for a dry weekend ahead.
Well, that seems very fitting. Thanks,
yes.
Riley.
You're welcome.
Hundreds gathered in Dauphin for an emotional memorial on Saturday to mark the one-year anniversary of the province's deadliest bus crash. 17 people died as a result of the collision between a bus and a semi-truck on the Trans-Canada Highway near Carberry. As the CBC's Rosanna Hempel reports, family members say a monument unveiled in their honour will help ensure they'll never be forgotten.
Deceased, Louise Bredisher, Catherine Day.
The names of the 17 who died.
Lucille Bredisher, Mary Hudma.
The 8 others who were injured. Hundreds came together for an emotional ceremony in Dauphin, commemorating the one-year anniversary of a tragic collision on the Trans-Canada Highway near Carberry.
It's been a year since that devastating day, and though time has passed, the pain and the sorrow remain fresh in our hearts.
Family members, survivors, and first responders attended the memorial for Levon Tashinsky, whose mother, Shirley Novolkowski, died in the crash.
I think it's something that we all needed. We needed to have, I'm not going to say it's closure, it's just more, we were able to come together and try not to relive that time, but come together with, sort of celebrating their lives.
The crowd held a moment of silence and took in the unveiling of a monument honoring those who died in the crash, those who survived it, and those who helped.
1 year ago today, many lives intertwined as a result of this tragic incident.
Tashinsky helped organize the monument with other families.
We just listened to each other. It was very therapeutic. I'm very happy that we were part of that, and we became very good friends.
She says it was important for them to meet and recognize the first responders.
You can sort of see it in their eyes as well. So it affected them just as, I'm not going to say just the same, what they would have seen, I can't imagine. But I'm very grateful that they're here.
The ceremony also meant a lot to Josephine Stockatelny. After 6 months in hospital and many more recovering, she's glad to finally be back home in Dauphin to pay her respects.
And this is a beautiful service that was put up for the people that passed, and I knew most of them too. And I'm so sorry that something like that could have happened.
Premier Wab Kinew announcing first responders who helped in the aftermath of the collision will be awarded the province's highest honor, the Order of the Buffalo Hunt.
And I think it's important that we find a way to pay tribute to the people who stepped up that day to save lives and to show dignity.
Meanwhile, consultations on potential changes to the deadly intersection of Highway 5 and the Trans-Canada get underway at the end of the month, as Manitoba RCMP wait on the Crown to decide whether charges should be laid in the case.
It's been a difficult year, and for many of us, it will continue to be challenging.
In the years to come, Dauphin Mayor David Boziak hopes people find comfort in coming to the monument.
Remembering the people, that they were significant members of our community, and that every time you come by here, in a year or two, or hopefully sooner than that, you'll remember all the good times with those people.
He says the anniversary signals the beginning of a new chapter, and one that will never be forgotten. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Dauphin.
Should social media apps come with a warning? As mental health concerns among young people continue to rise, one of America's most senior health officials says it's time to impose smoking-style warning labels on those platforms. More on that straight ahead. The Prime Minister says the issue of foreign interference in Canadian politics crosses party lines. Justin Trudeau gave an exclusive interview tonight with the CBC's Power and Politics. As Olivia Stefanovich reports, he's responding to recent bombshell allegations that some parliamentarians have helped foreign states.
We know that foreign actors are trying to interfere in all different parties in many different ways.
The Prime Minister on the defense about his government's response to foreign interference.
Don't you as Prime Minister kind of owe it to the country to clear up exactly how compromised the Parliament may or may not be at this point in time?
But that's exactly why we called a public inquiry.
In an exclusive interview with CBC Power and Politics host David Cochrane, Justin Trudeau was asked repeated questions about a national security and intelligence report alleging some unnamed parliamentarians have acted on behalf of foreign states.
Jagmeet Singh has said that there's nobody in his caucus he needs to worry about. Can you say the same thing with comfort and clarity?
I hadn't known that Jagmeet said that. I would be wary of any party leader drawing any sort of conclusion like that.
So far, 2 opposition leaders received national security clearance to read the unredacted findings, generating 2 starkly different reactions.
I am vastly relieved.
I'm not relieved at all, nor, in fact, I am more disturbed.
Prompting Green Party co-leader Elizabeth May to clarify her position.
I don't want to, for any reason at all, create impressions for Canadians that Mr. Singh and I disagree on the contents.
The Prime Minister pointing to the confusion as one of the reasons all opposition leaders should read the full report themselves.
Mr. Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party, is choosing to not read the classified report, not get the security cleared so he can actually engage on a substantive, fact-based approach on the issue of foreign interference that everyone needs to take seriously.
The Conservative leader's office says Pierre Poilievre would welcome a briefing if Canada's spy agency has concerns about his party or caucus. So far, that hasn't happened. And as for Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchet, he's still waiting for his security clearance. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
The top U.S. health official wants to see warning labels on social media platforms, like those that appear on cigarette boxes or for alcohol. He says the popular apps can be harmful to young people's mental health. Chris Reyes has more from New York.
America's top doctor wants Congress to approve warning labels on social media platforms similar to what you would find on alcohol and cigarettes. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy calls the mental health crisis in young people an emergency. He's urging lawmakers to act now.
A warning label would help parents to understand these risks. Many parents don't know that those risks exist. And we have data from tobacco warning labels that in fact tells us that they can be helpful in changing awareness and changing behavior.
Dr. Murthy compares the harms of social media with that of unsafe cars, planes, and food. He said you can't put all the responsibilities on parents when it comes to regulating social media use. In his op-ed, he writes, there's no seatbelt for parents to click, no helmet to snap in place, no assurances that trusted experts have investigated and ensured that these platforms are safe for kids. He wrote, there are just parents and their children trying to figure it out on their own, pitted against some of the best product engineers and most well-resourced tech companies in the world. He also said even young people are sharing stories with him, asking for help.
Talking about how it makes them feel worse about their body image, how it makes them feel worse about their lives as they're constantly comparing themselves to others.
Last year, Dr. Murthy also issued a public health advisory about social media, urging lawmakers and tech companies to make the platforms safer. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
So-called dumb phones are now having a moment. The retro mobile devices lack the bells and whistles of a smartphone. They perform basic functions like calling and texting, but can't connect to the internet. As Nisha Patel shows us, they're becoming more popular with younger people looking for less distraction.
She's got her school schedule.
When Lee Tynan agreed to get her 13-year-old daughter a cell phone, she didn't want it to become a distraction.
When there's a smartphone or a screen, You don't practice guitar, you don't read a book, you don't just be bored. Hello?
She spent about $80 on a flip phone. It allows talk and text, but no social media.
And then I just thought I really don't feel comfortable with her being online all the time.
Known as dumb phones, simple phones, or even boring phones, these basic models seem to be making a comeback. Sales in Canada grew by 25% in 2023 compared to the year before.
The smartphone is not a source of enjoyment anymore. It used to be fun, but now they're addicted to it. So they want to go back to simpler times, using a simpler device.
The company that makes Nokia phones has relaunched a model from 20 years ago.
It's really interesting to see like a phone that many thought was done with, like we would never use this phone again, and now it's being picked up.
We're humans who are taking back our lives.
The Lite phone is also trying to cash in on the demand. Its version has a more modern design, a black and white screen, and no connection to the internet. The company is in talks with TELUS and hopes to bring the phone to Canada later this year. Though iPhone and Android devices still make up the overwhelming majority of new phone sales in North America.
Right now I'm using the F22.
Kristen Campbell has made the switch.
I just felt a lot calmer and a lot happier, and I just get to live my life in the place where I am at that moment rather than constantly being mentally elsewhere.
For her, getting a dumb phone was the smart move. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
At least 15 people are dead and dozens more hurt in eastern India after a freight train smashed into a passenger train. Officials say the freight train driver ignored a signal and rammed into the rear end of the other train that was stationary. 3 train cars were pushed off the rails and into a massive pileup. One train car was left nearly vertical after the incident. Rescuers are combing through a debris field of mangled carriages for survivors. More people are feared trapped inside the massive wreckage. A heat wave not seen in decades will send temperatures soaring for more than half the U.S. population. The latest on the heat dome and what we'll see here in Manitoba. Stay with us. The official start of summer is still a few days away, but heat records are already being forecast across much of North America.
We want to be clear, this is extremely hot for June, and New Yorkers should not underestimate the heat.
The Big Apple is about to become the baked apple. Forecasts indicate temperatures will feel like nearly 40 degrees Celsius in New York. The U.S. is expected to see as many as 200 new heat records in the coming days. A powerful high-pressure system known as a heat dome has trapped hot air over much of the U.S. Temperatures have climbed to the 40s across many of the southern states. Hot weather is also moving across central Canada. Heat warnings are in place for a large section of Ontario, Quebec, and New Brunswick. Can expect high heat and humidity later in the week. Riley Lachuk is back. And Riley, we talk about really wanting that heat in the summer, but what the other thing is there's that dangerous level of heat. So what are we going to see here?
Yeah, we will get hot, relatively speaking, as we get toward the weekend, Brittany. Not quite that hot. That is, of course, dangerously hot and very widespread, which is what's pretty unusual about this. Here's a look at some of the daytime highs. We'll take you across the United States. So starting with the U.S. Southwest, and once again, kind of sound like a broken record when I say we're in the 40s once again for parts of Nevada, even into parts of Colorado, or California, I should say, topping that 40-degree mark throughout the day today. Even into Texas, getting into the mid-30s. But if we look a little bit further here to the east, yes, these are very hot temperatures at this time of the year. Chicago, about 10 degrees above seasonal for this time of the year. Detroit getting to 34. Toronto topping 30, which is about 5 or 6 degrees above normal for this time of the year. So, and this heat will last for several days yet. And as Brittany mentioned there, has prompted some heat warnings throughout parts of eastern Canada already. Not quite that warm here today. 17 in Roblin, 19 in Swan River is where we got to today. Barely getting above 20 degrees. This is actually below seasonal for this time of the year, but we will start to see some of that warmer air kind of making its way north. You can really see sort of this dip in the jet stream here, which is allowing some of that colder air from the north to sing south while it's kind of pushing and funneling some of that warmer air back into eastern Canada. As we get later into the week, you can start to see things moderating a little bit, but still very hot through the U.S. Southwest and even into parts of eastern Canada, Ontario, Quebec, into the maritime provinces. We do start to see things warming up a little bit more as sort of this dip in the jet stream kind of shifts a little bit further to the north as we get through Thursday and ending the week on what's looking like going to be a bit of a warmer note. If you look at sort of the temperature scale here, temperature is sort of in that mid to high 20s by the time we reach the end of the week for the prairie provinces. All right, let's talk about a little bit more immediate term here in terms of your dog walking forecast for tomorrow. This is Gushu. Thanks, Gary, for sending this picture in. Talkback at cbc.ca is where you can always send your photos and where I'd love to see them. Probably a bit of a wet one tomorrow for that dog walk first thing in the morning. 14 in Winnipeg with some showers still rolling through. Chance of scattered showers as we get later in the day. 16 by the time we reach the afternoon. Look at your forecast now for tonight. 12 degrees in Winnipeg, a pretty rainy evening through the day tomorrow in northern Manitoba. We're looking at really a mix of sun and clouds, maybe some scattered showers and yeah, rainy conditions throughout the South Brittany tomorrow. And we're looking at pretty cloudy conditions as well.
All right, thanks for keeping an eye on that, Riley.
You're welcome.
It's a story of murder, mystery, and Manitoba's first outlaw. Coming up, we'll hear the story of a Métis man who lived a life of crime in an era of defiance and change. Stay with us. Our friends at CBC Indigenous have been working hard to mark National Indigenous History Month and incredible Indigenous folks achieving incredible feats. It's all in a project called FIRST. It celebrates First Nations, Inuit and Métis trailblazers from sports to sciences, health and medicine and beyond. Manitoba's first outlaw was actually a Métis man. Brett Forster with CBC Indigenous met up with one of his living descendants to learn more.
Will Goodon is on a trip through time. The Métis leader is tracing the steps of a notorious ancestor with a peculiar claim to fame. The journey brings him here to Fort Dufferin, a historic site along the Red River in southern Manitoba. Today it tells a glowing history of Canada's Mounties in their famed march west, but Goodon isn't here for that.
The Northwest and Manitoba belong to Canada. Like, that is about as colonial speak as you can possibly get.
Instead, inside a 19th century shed turned into a museum, he stares up at a large axe, and that's why he's here. Fort Dufferin is where his great-uncle Gilbert Godin committed an infamous murder in 1873, making him Manitoba's first official outlaw.
There's no doubt he would have been in and around an area like this if he had his favorite bartender already scoped out.
Now, you won't find that history on any plaque, but here's how it all went down.
There was a brawl, there was a fight, there was a party.
Gilbert wasn't the guy you wanted to face in a bar fight. He was Métis from Minnesota, a stout 6'2" and strong as an ox. His posse arrived at the newly built fort in 1873 at an unlicensed tavern. But when they were refused drink, another Métis man, Benjamin Marchand, threatened and pushed the bartender, cueing the brawl. Gilbert defended the barkeep, so Marchand's son grabbed a shovel and banged Gilbert on the head. The Godin family then joined the fray, but things soon took a tragic turn.
During the scuffle, Gilbert apparently grabbed an axe and hit one of the Marchands over the head. Killed the guy. You don't know which end of the axe he used, but it was a murder.
After that fatal brawl here at Fort Dufferin, Gilbert fled across the border to North Dakota, but just 6 months later he was apprehended following yet another brawl. He was sent to Winnipeg, where he was sentenced to death. But he still had some friends, among them a bartender who intervened on his behalf. His sentence was commuted to 14 years in prison.
We trace that path north to Upper Fort Garry, another historic site in Winnipeg. It isn't far from where Gilbert was sentenced to hard labor on the chain gang, though that didn't last long.
He also knew what he was doing. He was got off of the chain somehow. And he was at Fort Garry, and he jumped in the river, swam across the river, and got away.
The jailbird flew south again from Winnipeg to Pembina in present-day North Dakota. That's where a band of armed lawmen came to arrest him in 1877, but Gilbert confronted them with a revolver in each hand. The lead constable hesitated, and in that instant, the convict's mom and sister-in-law jumped on the cop, allowing Gilbert to flee. After, you guessed it, another brawl 3 years later, he was finally captured and jailed in a building made of hewn oak logs. A bad idea when inmates are forced to cut wood all day for work.
One day, he was able to smuggle a saw blade into the jail cell. They cut a hole in the roof of the jail and snuck out, never to be heard from again.
For Godin, there is greater significance to Gilbert's story despite his life of crime. Strolling through Fort Garry, where Louis Riel seized power and helped usher Manitoba into Confederation in 1870, Godin says his distant relative is a tragic figure, but also a loyal one. A man whose defiance and independence the Métis Nation can relate to.
After Gilbert's second jailbreak, he was reportedly spotted at a camp along the Missouri River just 5 months later, but he was never seen nor heard from again in Canada, and so the ultimate fate of Manitoba's first official outlaw remains a mystery. I'm Brett Forster for CBC Indigenous in Fort Dufferin, Manitoba.
Well, here's a look at some of the cleanup after Sunday's powerful winds. Riley Lachak has one more look at the forecast up next. Stay with us.
On the topics that matter, your voice should be heard.
I'm really concerned. And I'm not really happy about that.
Radio Noon is where you can voice your take. I'm Janet Stewart. From 12:30 to 1 p.m., Radio Noon opens the phone lines on one important topic.
It just brings everyone together.
Radio Noon's call-in segment, 204-780-0893. We want to hear from you, weekdays on CBC.
Just finished making this because I wanted to show it to you. 6 confirmed tornadoes touching down, according to the Northern Tornadoes Project, last Wednesday in Manitoba. 1 in Saltcoats. This actually says 2. It should be 1 in Saltcoats, Saskatchewan, 2 touching down in the Rivers area, 1 in Spruce Woods Provincial Park, which was followed by a downburst, and 2 confirmed touchdowns near St. Alphonse, which is sort of in the Swan Lake region where we did see some of that damage. So we'll have more on that as some of the details come out, but that's just sort of the numbers at a glance here. We're looking at a rainy start to the day tomorrow, 16 by the time we reach the afternoon. Your 7-day forecast very quickly looks like this. Summer is starting on Thursday, 26 degrees with a sunny sky, Brittany. Maybe a few more showers to come Saturday into Sunday, and 26 for next Monday. Well, the Empire State Building is being taken over by a mythical giant beast.
And no, it's not King Kong. Here is tonight's Daily Lift.
Take a look at this. It's called a dance of dragons of sorts, taking over New York. This 82-meter installation of Vagar the Dragon from HBO's House the Dragon is wrapped around the iconic building to promote the season premiere of the show.
The dragon is made up of over 15 kilometers of stitching. It's staying on its perch until tomorrow for fans to go and see and take photos. That is very cool.
Hopefully it can withstand the heat, because I know it's going to get hot there.
Very cool. We'd like to see some of those photos.
Fire-breathing dragon.
Have a wonderful night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.